Hey friends, in this video we're going to be talking about how you wire for internet, satellite, and cable, how we bring those services into your home. So this is the last video we planned for sort of our Prewire series. We're going to circle back and cover some additional topics, but this is the last one in the original set we wanted to cover. So we're going to get right into it. The thing you need to understand is that the utility services, cable, satellite, internet companies, they're bringing their services to the edge of the home, but you've got to bring the services into the home. And surprisingly, there's a lot of builders who just don't realize that they need these cables run on the inside of the home. They're not trying to cheat you. It's not their fault. It's just not on their radar, and nobody's talking to them and explaining this to them. We landed a contract with a large production builder a few years back, and the very first development, we had to go back in and retrofit every single one of the homes that were built before we came on board because they didn't have any of these services run in the home at that time. So something to be aware of, whether you're wiring your home or somebody's wiring it for you, just make sure that they're planning to cover these items in your home. So the first one, and I think the most important, is your demarcation. You'll also hear it called Demarc for short. This is a location next to your electrical meter. What's going to happen is your cable, internet, phone providers are going to bring those services in from the curb or the side of the road right up to that electrical meter on the side of your home. And so you need cables running from the inside of the home to come right to that same location so they can put a junction box there and kind of connect what's coming from the street to what's going to the inside of the home. We call that the demarcation. I see in here a lot of different ideas about the demarcation. Our standard, when we wire a home, we use 2 Cat 6, 2 coax, and some kind of a low voltage power wire like an 18.2 or a 16.2. Quick fun fact, if you're a nerd like me, the demarcation came about because of AT&T. Way back when they owned sort of a monopoly on the phone lines. They own the long distance stuff, kind of the telephone lines, and then they own the last mile, which is where it comes into the neighborhood and into the home, and then they own the wire and the phone on the inside of the home. So they owned the entire run of phone line from beginning to end, and so they had a monopoly, and after some antitrust suits, they said, okay, AT&T, you've got to let go of everything on the inside of the home, and you can service stuff on the outside of the home, and they needed to be able to distinguish which company was which, so they called it the demarcation point, and everything on the outside of the home they knew was AT&T, and everything on the inside of the home they knew was whoever you'd contracted with for your phone. That's probably not perfect, but that's the gist of it. That's where demarcation came from originally. So back to the wire and why we run these wires. Each company brings the wire into the home a little bit differently, and they have different requirements, and this kind of covers the basis. So when people don't know what they're getting for cable and internet, this really future-proofs it well. It's yet to fail us. If you're running fiber inside the home, you certainly would add fiber with the demarcation. I would still run the 2 Cat 6 to 2 coax and the low voltage power wire along with the fiber, but that's something you definitely can do. A lot of people ask us about this low voltage power wire. Some of the services out there offering fiber require an outlet at the side of the home. They either want it right there at the point of demarcation near the electrical meter, or they want it just inside on like the garage wall. They want an outlet to help them power the fiber as it comes into your home. And again, a lot of builders and even electricians aren't aware that the service providers have this requirement. So this is kind of a get out of jail free card. If you're bringing fiber into the home and you find out after the home's done that you need an outlet and the builder or the electricians haven't provided one, most of the time that's going to cover you so that you can give the service providers what they need to bring fiber into the home. Now, really important, I highly recommend you contact your local service providers and ask them what their recommendations are for the demarcation. Sometimes they'll even provide a wire for you that you can run that's their proprietary wire that they use for their internet or cable services. It's always the best way to go if that's available, but if not, this has not failed us yet. Okay, number 2 is the satellite Prewire. And again, just like the demarcation, I highly recommend you talk to your local service providers. Each provider has different criteria, but the standard for satellite Prewire when we wire home is 4 coax or 4 RG6. Okay, and then you'll notice I added an 18.2. What this is for cold climates where you've got snow and you may have snow build up on that satellite and you need a way to get the snow off. You can use that low voltage power wire to power a heater so that after a winter storm, you can melt the snow off of the satellite without having to climb up onto the rooftop and still have coverage coming into your home. Now, a lot of people ask us why we wire for satellite, and they'll always reference the coax that we're already running for the Demarc. There's 2 reasons that we wire for satellite. Number 1, we don't want them to wrap your home. And wrapping a home is when they take coax and they staple it around your house. You don't have wire run where you need it. So rather than cutting holes in your sheetrock and doing a lot of damage on the inside of your home, they just staple coax around the side of your home and up to the satellite location. So that's the first reason that we pre-wire for satellite. The second reason is that oftentimes your demarcation, you're only going to have 1 coax. I know I'm recommending running 2 coax, but for example, I just talked to one of our design clients in Miami, and he's buying a spec home where they've already run the demarcation, and there's nothing he can do to add wires to the demarcation, and they only ran 1 coax. And he happens to be getting cable internet. So they're going to use that coax for his cable internet. And he also wants to bring satellite into the home. Well, he's already used his coax. So the way they're going to bring satellite into the home is they're going to staple coax and wrap his home. But if he adds a satellite pre-wire, then we can run wire out to a soffit location nearest his satellite. You are going to see about a 2-foot wrap wrap. The wire is going to come out of the soffit. It's going to wrap the soffit up onto the rooftop right where the satellite goes. That's going to be a lot cleaner installation, and it's going to work. So even though we're recommending running 2 coax, oftentimes you only have 1 coax at the demarcation, and it's not enough depending on the service providers you're using. So that's the second reason that we recommend doing a satellite pre-wire. Okay, and then the third thing is satellite internet. And I really only mention this just to make you aware of it, particularly if you're the first home in a development. There's a good chance you're not going to have traditional internet services available for a few months, maybe even a year, while you're waiting for development to finish and for those services to get pulled into the side of your home. So for that interim period, you need another solution for internet. And again, just like a satellite pre-wire, if you've not wired for satellite internet, they're just going to wrap the side of your home. They're pretty good at it, they're clean about it, but they're still going to wrap the side of your home. Just like the other services, I recommend contacting your local satellite internet provider, but if you can't find answers, I recommend running 2 Cat6 for your satellite internet, especially where it's your internet and that's so critical. I think it's a good plan of action to double up. That way, if one of the wires is damaged, you've got another cable you can use there to bring internet into the inside of your home. So these are the services that you might bring into your home and the wires we recommend for bringing them from the outside of the home to the inside of your home. A couple of extras just for you to be aware of. People always ask us where these wires all run to. Inside of your home, you're going to have something called a low voltage can or a media panel. It's a white can that looks a lot like your electrical breaker box, only it's white and there's a door that swings open. All these cables from your Demarc, your satellite pre-wire, your satellite internet, they're all going to run from the different locations on the outside of the home. They're all going to come into that low voltage can, and that's where we're going to finish and clean up those wires and make the connections to send them everywhere else in the home. There's not really a right or a wrong on the location of that low voltage can. Typically, you're going to see it in a mechanical closet. If we're doing a media rack, we do need to make some connections between the low voltage can and the media rack. So it's always easiest if they're in the same room, but it doesn't have to be. The demarcation I mentioned already, it has to go next to the electrical meter. Typically, you're going to have conduit at the electrical meter that runs out to the side of the road so that the utility services can bring the wires through that conduit to the side of your home. That's where you want your demarcation cables to run. Sometimes you won't have the conduit, so you're just going to place the wires near the electrical meter. A good rule of thumb, just for aesthetics, if you're standing looking at your home, we want the wires to be behind the electrical meter so that we can't see them and we can't see the junction boxes the utility services are going to use when they come and make those connection points. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's it. That covers the utility services that we're trying to bring into the home. Hopefully that's been helpful, answered some questions for you. Again, this kind of finishes off our pre-wire series. We will come back and revisit this with some additional information about how to pre-wire your home. If you got any questions, leave it in the comments below. As always, we'd love it if you'd like, subscribe, and share this with your friends.